Well, a case of child abuse that has been the focus of growing attention on the internet is once again headed back to the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals. In 2006, a young woman was sentenced to 30 years in prison for failing to protect her children from abuse. The person who admitted to causing the actual abuse walked out of the courtroom a free man.
On its face, this appears to be a case where justice may not have been served.
We're filing what's called a post-conviction application on behalf of Tondaleo Hall. She is a mother of 3 and a domestic violence survivor who was sentenced to 30 years in prison for failing to stop the actions of her abuser, who received 8 years probation and walked free the day of trial.
Megan Lambert is a legal fellow with the American Civil Liberties Union of Oklahoma. The ACLU filed applications for post-conviction relief at the Oklahoma County Court Clerk's office on behalf of Tondaleo Hall, who has now served 11 years of her 30-year sentence.
We hope to see her released from prison, and we hope to address some of the systemic injustices within the Oklahoma criminal justice system.
There are now several internet sites that have created letter-writing campaigns or videos calling for Hall to be set free. Tondaleo Hall had her first child at age 15. She dropped out of school and a few years later had 2 more children, both from Robert Braxton Jr. Neither of them had jobs, and Braxton would show up at Hall's apartment a few times a week. In 2004, she took her nearly year-old son, Robert Lewis Braxton III, to Children's Hospital. His left leg was limp and dangling. What doctors found was a horrific case of child abuse. 12 ribs had been broken and were in different stages of healing, meaning they didn't happen all at once. One of the ribs was so badly broken it produced a lump in the boy's back. His left femur was broken, and the doctor said it had already begun to heal, so they couldn't put it in a cast. It had been broken for more than 2 weeks. When police went to Hall's apartment to check on the 2 remaining children, they found 3-month-old Ukiah Lolita Geneva Braxton. She had 7 broken ribs, and her left leg was broken in the same place as Robert's. Again, injuries that were sustained over a period of time and in various stages of healing. Robert Braxton's little body was covered in other evidence of abuse: scars on his face, legs, and back, a hemorrhage to one of his eyes. Tondaleo's oldest son, Jeffrey Jermaine Hall, told investigators Robert Braxton Jr. would kick the kids in the ribs with his shoes on. So how does Robert Braxton leave his trial a free man? Oklahoma County prosecutors declined on-camera interviews, but did provide access to the case file that was produced by police and the prosecutor. During interviews with investigators, Tondaleo Hall was evasive and protective of Braxton throughout the case. But eventually, prosecutors say she agreed to testify against him in court in exchange for a lighter sentence. But they say when it came time to testify, the court file shows she did not tell the court what she had told prosecutors, basically leaving the case against Braxton hanging by his guilty plea to harming the 3-month-old child. Judge Ray Elliott gave Braxton an 8-year sentence, 6 of it suspended so he would be on probation, and 2 years to do with credit for time served. He had already been locked up for that long, so he walked out of the courtroom. Miss Hall also pled guilty, Judge Elliott and prosecutors deciding someone had to pay for what had been done to the children, and the only one left was Tondaleo. The ACLU sees Miss Hall's performance at trial differently from prosecutors and the judge.
The judge and the prosecutor used this assumption that she was hiding things in her testimony as a reason to give her a harsher sentence. Conversely, her fear that they sensed during her testimony was a symptom of the domestic abuse that she faced.
Hall has had her case before the Court of Criminal Appeals once before on a direct appeal after conviction, and relief was denied. Megan Lambert argues that much of the evidence available now wasn't available back then.
She had different counsel. There was not evidence of the domestic abuse that she faced, nor the impact that that had on her culpability. We're presenting a large amount of new evidence that has never been heard before the Court of Criminal Appeals.
And if the court does not accept her appeal or rejects it?
Prepared to appeal that to the United States Supreme Court if necessary.
Tondaleo's 3 children have been living with a relative. As far as Robert Braxton Jr., Supreme Court records show a list of traffic violations, but no other major crimes.